Okay, one more minute and then we'll start. Do we have something in the chat?
That's just somebody else waiting to come in. No.
Are they in?
Yeah.
Has the recording started?
Yeah, just started the recording, yeah.
Thank you.
Can you admit those few for me, Wendy, please, in there?
Can you put it into present mode for us, please?
Yeah.
Fraser, thank you. Okay, I think we're a couple of minutes past 11, so I think let's start. So welcome everybody. This is now the 5th Housing Repairs online show and share. Next slide, please. Before I share with you what we're going to cover today, just to remind everyone why we do these show and shares. It's an opportunity for the team to celebrate what they've achieved, demo any work in software and provide information on progress made. But most importantly, it's an opportunity for you, our collaborators and supporters, to give us feedback and ask questions, and we'll have time at the end for you to do that. Next slide. So what we're going to cover today, as you can see, we've got a full agenda. In a moment, I'll remind you who is in the core team, share our vision, and then I'll hand over to Bhavesh Patel, our lead engineer, who will talk to you about API authentications, why we're doing it and how we're going to do it. We'll then hear from Fraser Chickett, our product owner, who will demo the current MVP, and that will give an example of how we've now integrated the front end to the back end via APIs. We'll then hear from Theon Johnson, our user researcher, about the last round of user research that was conducted. So we'll hear about the approach taken, the analysis performed, and the key findings identified. I'll then give a general summary on the progress made in the current sprint and our focus for the next, before handing back to Fraser, who will tell you how you can engage with the project. And then at the end, you all have the opportunity to ask the team any questions you may have.
Was it Stuart? Yeah, go to Stuart. He was on the complaint.
Okay, next slide. So sorry, can you mute your microphones, please? There's some background noise. Thank you. So who is in the core team? We have Fraser Chickett, our product owner from Lincoln Council, myself, Paul Clemson, delivery manager from Maytech, Leon Aki, our engagement manager from DLUC, who are funding this project, Bhavesh Patel, lead engineer Maytech, Jayad Imataji from our pilot authority, Southwark Council, Wendy Banks, business analyst from Lincoln Council, Theon Johnson, user researcher from Maytech, Elva Lamarte, our senior engineer from Maytech, Jim Bowen, who's representing the Thistle IT group, Mesa Canoni, engineer from Maytech, and finally, Aziz Amra, UX designer from Maytech. Just to say that we're sadly saying goodbye to both Theon and Az this week from the project, but just want to thank them for all their contributions so far. Next slide, please. So our vision is to design and build a reusable and accessible online repair reporting tool that requires no login, and most importantly, residents prefer to use as it meets their needs. A tool that is integratable with various scheduling systems through open, scalable and accessible APIs, enabling the tool, we hope, to be adopted by local authorities across the UK. I'll hand over to Bhavesh.
Thanks, Paul. I'm going to be talking about API authentication. Obviously, I think one of the reasons that we authenticate APIs is to avoid undesirable requests, remove threat of malicious requests, and ensure communication between our components is very secure. And for this project, we've decided to use JSON Web Tokens, JWT for short, which are an open industry standard for securely communicating and transmitting information. So the diagram on the left illustrates an example workflow of requests between a client and a server. And so the steps there are to authenticate, and the server will validate and provide a JSON token back. And then for subsequent requests, the client will use that token to be sent, and the server can further verify and process the requests. And on the right hand side, we have an illustration of how this will be implemented in the Housing Repairs Online project. So between the browser and the Repairs API, there will be one level of authentication. And then between the Repairs API and the Housing Management System, API, there'll be a similar one, but re-implemented for purposes of reuse. And later on, when we develop a scheduling API, it will also be employed there. So this is work that we've achieved during this sprint. And so all of our API requests are now secure and authenticated. Back over to you.
Cheers, Bhavesh. I'll take over from here on this one. So just going to run you through our MVP demo. So just really want to iterate on this one that this is a live working product to an extent now. This is built on our code. It's not just on the GovUK toolkit anymore. So just going to run you through these first early steps. This has been iterated based on the user research over the past few weeks. So we're constantly updating these pages. I recommend going back to our previous show and shares just to go through what those changes have been. So just running through this is the process. We've got this kick out page on here to try and identify where there's the emergency. We've still got our text on here around a communal area. Just shouting out on here, we've updated based on the last round of user research that we now refer to it as a problem, not as an issue throughout the journey. And the exciting bit is that this is now doing a live lookup back to Lincoln's universal test system. Sadly, because of internet and security and the way it works, it's not going to actually show you the drop-down address, but I can see one on my screen. So I'm able to pick a live lookup. What that has done is interrogated our universal system using that method that Bhavesh has just explained. But importantly, it's only bringing back properties that are valid for council repairs. So that I can't find my address on here is for somebody who isn't in a tenancy property. If they're in a non-council property, there's a journey for that for them to call us and we can give advice. And for where we are at the moment, that's as far as this journey is built. But it's just really great that we've been able to move on with that integration and get something working back to our live systems. Just to prove it, I did the screenshot just to show what I could see on my screen. So we can see on there that that's what the customer will actually see and they can pick their address and move on. So at that point, I'll hand over to Theon.
Hi, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the research that I did, the second and last round of research. So we're able to conduct 6 sessions with users, and like 2 of the users who participated were neurodiverse, one was partially sighted, and the partially sighted user didn't use assistive tech but uses like a physical magnifying glass onto a screen. So that was really interesting doing research with them and to see and understand like what they could like see on the service and anything that we needed to expand upon and just make sure that she was able to use it herself. And then also luckily enough, they were an English language tutor, so also gave us a lot of comments in regards to the content. And then as well, we tested with someone on a mobile device just to see how the service interacted on that interface. So yeah, on the next slide, I'm just going to go through the process of the analysis that I did. So essentially, I extracted all the insights from the notes onto Miro, and then I added these post-it notes to just reflect the key insights, and I sorted them. And I also added how might we statements. So for anyone who's not aware, how might we statements help us kind of direct our focus for design of how we might solve this particular issue or this particular insight that we found from the research. So I used how might we bubbles in yellow on each page to kind of encapsulate everything that I found to do with this particular part of the journey. And then going through with the team, I talked about the insights and the how might we statements, and then we created these design bubbles to show like what we could actually change in order to answer or solve this how might we statement and the insights that are pushing our thoughts in a certain direction. And then we also went through and added these approval or action stars just to say like these design decisions have been approved, these like design decisions need to be checked or questioned in X, Y, and Z. So kind of going through and did a part analysis, part kind of design type workshop just to kind of kickstart the next iteration. So that's the process that I went through to do the analysis. And then I'm just going to go through some of the key insights. on the next slide, and this is more overarching insights. There's a lot of things that came up throughout the journey, but like I said at the beginning, one of the participants was an English language tutor, so it was super useful going through with them, but also some of the insights from the other participants related to the content that we used and the type of language and the phrasing, and in particular, like they use the word counselish, and it could be simplified or supported by guidance. So a quick example of that is on the landing page. That's just a screenshot of like what you see when you land, just the first half of the screen. And people, when they started the journey, would read through, and as a user, you want to identify whether you are this person or not, because it's asking you to essentially go to this area. If you're a leaseholder, to request a repair for a leaseholder, please see the leaseholder contact details page. But quite a few users were asking me or question what a leaseholder was. So that is like a quick snapshot of us knowing that we need to provide guidance in this place, because one of the users says that they'd go and Google that. But if we can integrate that into the service, then that will just support a user in being able to identify whether they are this person or not. And then again, just related to like little content language changes. So for example, like where is the problem located, just say where is the problem. And some things that obviously we're looking at the service every single day, we might not notice or understand what other people might not notice, what other people notice and might not understand, if that makes sense. So these sessions are really useful for us to understand the kind of content that we should amend or simplify. So the next point related to like removing the descriptive buttons. So throughout the journey, there was an iteration between the first and the second round of research where we added, we described what a user would do next in the green buttons off the back of, there was a few pain points initially in the first round of research where users weren't sure what was going to happen next. So they wanted to test whether this solution was actually appropriate or not with users. But we found that it actually didn't match up with users' current mental model of how they expect to progress in services like this, and especially because the gov.uk design standard is quite set. People know what to expect when they carry on in the pages, and we just wanted to test whether this idea was like a valid one to implement or not. And from the feedback, we saw that users kind of, when they're doing especially similar tasks, for example, the first page relates to what is the property address, and then the next page is select your address. People were expecting to just say continue when it's relating to the same problem. And then again, I have a like short video on another user going through a similar thing on a different page. And that was related to the contact details. So we asked people to implement their contact details, but the button almost reflects the action that they've already done. So when they went to the next page, they were confused on why we were asking them to do it again. So yeah, it kind of, we're opening space for confusion. And I just added a video just to like show you what the user said in this session. And I think you can just click on the
yeah, bear with me just 1 second. I've just had an error pop up on my screen to say that it's no longer not sharing audio. So I'm just going to reshare my screen. Hopefully we should be good. Would you be able to mute your microphone as well, Theo? I'm just out it tests just.
Provide contact details. Again, give contact details. But I just gave them. I've just done that. So why is it saying give contact details? I just have. So I don't get that. I don't know what I'd do with that. Because I've just done it. Yeah.
So yeah, that was just a short little snippet of like what I was just describing. So we're kind of opening up space for a little bit of confusion. So there's definitely a lot of space for some design iterations to just prevent that. And then the last bit just relates to the your answers. So throughout the journey, the users have this your answers link, which is shown on the bottom right at the top of every page. And I was interested throughout the journey, I would ask users if they would amend or change certain points, like how would they do that? Most users just use the back button. And then none of the users across both rounds noticed or made use of the your answers tab throughout the journeys. And when I did point their attention back to it, users were either confused about its purpose or what it was for, or they just likened it to the report summary page, which is the last page, which shows all the users' answers, and it gives them ability to change their responses at that point. So essentially just coming across the fact that across both rounds, like, people didn't notice your answers, and we're just questioning whether it's actually adding value to the journey, if it's not being used by people, and also if it's just people are noticing that it's just a duplicate of the last page, then is it actually supporting them in their journey? And again, I just have a quick video just to show you what a user said about that area.
Can you let me know if the sound comes through for this one for you? Thank you.
No, that's not come through.
No sound?
Mm-mm.
Bear with me.
No worries.
Good old technology.
I know.
Interested to see what you think it actually is.
I'm not quite certain at this stage, your answers. Perhaps it could take you back to previous stages. Well, I hadn't noticed it before, and it's unlikely I'd use it unless I get really stuck. Because sometimes when you move back pages, you lose information, it takes longer, whatever. So I like to feel everything in one go, and I try to be really, really careful so all the details are accurate and nothing's missing.
Yeah. Let me just open this and show you what it is.
Okay.
So this is the Your Answers. This is in the Your Answers tab.
I mean, it's a duplicate of the last page where you are checking all the information. It is a bit confusing, I doubt how much people, users might want to click on that.
So yeah, that was just a short snippet to show like what one user mentioned in regards to that area. So yeah, like I said, there was like a few other insights that's come up, but these were kind of the overarching findings. That was quite consistent with quite a few of the users that will help us and just support us in the next iteration with those findings and how we progress with going over the analysis and making those design decisions together as a team. So yeah, that's all from me. So yeah, I think I'm just going to pass over to talk about the sprint. Yeah.
Thank you, Theon. That was great. So yeah, progress made in the last sprint. As you've seen, we've integrated universal housing with our housing management API. We conducted the second round of user research, performed the analysis, and identified the key findings that Theon just shared with you. We've now created a prototype V4 and an associated changelog with all the key design considerations. We investigated setting up infrastructure as code within Azure Cloud, and this may change the way we approach this. You heard from Bhavesh in how we've added authentication to both our repairs and housing management APIs, and we've completed a rework of built MVP pages. So these were MVP pages that were built initially on the alpha prototype and now reflect the beta prototype. Next slide, please. So what will be our focus in our next sprint? We'll continue to iterate the Proto V type to reflect the key findings. We'll complete rework of any of those MVP pages built on the alpha to reflect the beta prototype. And then we'll build new MVP pages. We'll also deepen our understanding of the DLUT monitoring and evaluation framework, including the theory of change, which sets out the objectives of the program, how they will be achieved, and the longer term impacts and aims. They will also deliver a set of metrics to measure the outcomes and impacts of the new online service. And finally, we'll start to take a look at all the viable support models for the service once it goes live. I'll now hand over to Fraser, who will talk to you how you can engage with the project.
Thanks, Paul. firstly, thank you everybody who has made the time out to attend today. It's really great to see such a full attendance at this show and share. But just hitting home, as I always do every couple of weeks, in that please check up on us on our blog on repairsonlinedigitalfund.com. We've got our hashtag of repairs online as well, so LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. You can find us on there. But please share this with other local authorities for anybody that might be interested. We really have started to get some momentum and some interest around the project now, and some potential partners. So, you know, don't miss out. I'd recommend getting in before, you know, the mad rush starts. So yeah, please just keep checking back and sharing with us. That'd be great. Thank you. And over to everybody else, really, for if you've got any questions on what we've run through today.
You can either unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can pop it in the chat. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. It doesn't have to be a question. It can just be feedback on what we've shared with you today. No one got any questions, feedback? We must be doing everything right, Fraser.
That's it. I'm taking that as a positive.
Fraser.
Yeah.
Hi. Have all your users or testers gone through each iteration, therefore got a learned behaviour, or are you bringing new people into each version release? So you haven't got that preconceived expectation at all?
No, it's been different users that have partaked in those rounds of sessions, Neil. So yeah, they haven't got that expectation that they've been a new set every time. They have been users from up and down the country as well. We're not just focusing on Lincoln residents. So we've had some from the London boroughs as well.
Excellent. Good.
Thank you, Matthew.
I was just going to say, just to back that up as well, I know that Theon ran through it a bit on there, but we have tried to get this with a broad range of types of users. So we've tried to engage with people who live in communal areas. Some people are in different types of tenancy, different types of users with accessibility needs, and even tested with staff as well.
We've still got a few minutes remaining. If there's any more questions or any more feedback you'd like to give. If not, we'll close the show and share. And thank everyone for attending. And like I say, please take a look at the blog. It'll give you the progress from alpha from discovery alpha now into beta, so you get the full journey, and you can see the previous shows and shares from the beta phase. So if there's nothing else from anybody, thanks everyone, and see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.